It's now ordered to consider Amendment Number 5, printed in the House Report 111537. For what purpose does the gentleman from Mississippi seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment Number 5, printed in House Report Number 111-537, offered by Mr. Taylor of Mississippi.
Pursuant to House Resolution 1517, gentleman from Mississippi, Mr. Taylor, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Mississippi.
Mr. Chairman, this amendment is to clarify a provision in the existing law, and the existing provision was used to deprive thousands of homeowners of wind coverage they should have had in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. It unfortunately had the additional effect of sticking the taxpayer through the National Flood Insurance Program with billions of dollars that they should not have paid. Under the National Write Your Own program, we hire the private sector to write the policy. No problem there. We pay them a commission of 29% to write that policy. It saves us the cost of having additional government employees. Problem comes in that we also let the private insurance company adjust the claim. So think of it. You're a 29-year-old father of 2. You're counting on your Christmas bonus. You work for State Farm, Nationwide, or Allstate. Hurricane comes through, the house is gone. Now, you can look at it and say, you know, I see trees falling down. That's indications of wind. I see tin up in trees. That means the wind blew it up there. But that means my company's going to have to pay something. Or I could say the flood did it all, which means the taxpayers have to pay it all. You see, under the law, they are called upon to do a fair adjustment of the claim. But buried in a typical insurance policy, typical wind insurance policy, in the case of a State Farm policy in Mississippi, on page 10 of a 24-page document, is one paragraph that said if any two things happen concurrently, then State Farm wasn't going to pay at all. This question was actually raised before the Mississippi State Supreme Court, and the attorney for Nationwide Insurance Company, Mr. Landau, was asked a question by Chief Justice of the Mississippi Supreme Court, Justice Pierce, and I'm quoting, "I'm giving you the example of 95% of the home is destroyed. The flood comes in and gets the other 5%, and you know that. Does your interpretation of the word sequence mean you pay zero?" The attorney for Nationwide Insurance, Mr. Landau, answered, "Yes, Your Honor." See, that goes beyond just hurting individuals on their payment. For number one, typical insurance policy says that if your home is destroyed, the insurance company will pay to put you up until it's repaired. But if they deny your claim in full, then they pay nothing. So in the case of Hurricane Katrina, our nation went out and bought 140,000 trailers at $15,000 per trailer, then paid a friend of the Bush administration another $16,000 per trailer to deliver those trailers just 60 miles, hook them up to a water line and sewer line. $31,000 per trailer times 44,000 trailers just in Mississippi. That's $1.3 billion that the taxpayers paid, that the insurance companies in almost every instance should have paid. On top of that, there were the homeowner grants. On top of that, there were SBA loans, for a total of $34 billion. I understand the gentlewoman's concern that this program lost $18 billion. The taxpayers lost $34 billion because the insurance companies didn't pay. This amendment would prohibit the language that was buried in that State Farm insurance policy. This amendment would prohibit the language that was buried in that Nationwide policy. It would go back to if these people want to do business with the nation under the National Write Your Own program, then they're going to stick to their obligation of doing a fair. If the house is 50% destroyed by water, flood insurance pays 50%. If it's 50% by wind, then the wind insurance company has to pay 50%. Well, whatever the ratio is, a fair adjustment of the claim, as it should have been, is already spelled out in the contract with the nation. But the contract between the insurance companies and the individuals had this language buried in there that is completely contrary to what they told our nation. And quite honestly, I would like to see which shill for the insurance companies wants to defend what they have done to individuals in the Gulf Coast and what they've done to the taxpayers as a whole.
Gentleman reserves balance of.
I yield to Ms. Waters.
Gentlewoman from California.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I stand in support of this gentleman's amendment. In April, my subcommittee held a hearing on flood and wind insurance legislative proposals, and at that hearing, the gentleman from Mississippi testified about the way the insurance industry abused the flood insurance program following Hurricane Katrina by claiming that if so much as a drop of water touched a home, that all the resultant damage was a result of flood and not wind. Even if there was damage to the contrary, insurers were able to maintain their bottom line at the expense of the financial solvency of the National Flood Insurance Program. Nobody has worked harder on these issues than he has. He deserves support for this amendment, and we will continue to support his instructions about what we should be doing in the future. I yield back the balance of my time.
Does any member seek time in opposition?
Yes, I'd like to claim time in opposition.
Gentlewoman from West Virginia, for what purpose do you seek?
I'd like to oppose the amendment and claim time in opposition.
Without recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by saying that my friend from Mississippi, we've kind of had a ongoing discussion on this. I think he knows this is not a personal issue for me, but it's a very personal one for him, and I certainly understand that. But I can't really even imagine being in your shoes, quite frankly, and a lot of your fellow Mississippians and what has happened. But I'm going to oppose this amendment really on by seeking to address the water and wind issue, which is something I think we do need to address. I think I have several issues that I'd like to bring forward. First of all, I have concern that this could interfere with the state regulation of insurance. As we all know, insurance is regulated through the states. It could dictate some of the processes that I think would undermine the state regulation of insurance. It's interesting that the gentleman brought up State Farm because, and I'm sure he's aware, that State Farm has just recently announced that they are going to be withdrawing from the WYO program, which is the Write Your Own Insurance program, for several reasons, I believe. I'm not certain what they all are, but this means that 800,000 customers nationwide who bought their flood insurance coverage through State Farm will now need to be picked up by other Write Your Own insurance companies. Third, I think this amendment could impose or would impose a new fiduciary responsibility on insurance companies that participate in this program. According to industry experts, this could expose insurers to new lawsuits and force them to place the interests of the federal program or the interests of their own policyholders. I think there could be a better way to address this issue and the objectives of this amendment by working with FEMA officials and state insurance regulators to devise a formula with ratios that would apportion losses fairly to address the situation in the future. Some state and companies are already using this approach to help clarify potential wind versus water issues. So with that, I would like to thank the gentleman for his passion and his stick-to-itiveness to try to solve a very deep problem particularly in his region of the country. But with the way this amendment is written and presented, I would have to be in opposition to it. I'll reserve the balance of my time.
Yeah. Does gentleman
I would yield back the balance. I'll yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from West Virginia yields back balance of her time. The question is now on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Mississippi. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to.